Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. It's been a wee while since my last video, but then again I was busy last week streaming. Completed Psychonauts on Friday for that, so can't wait to get to editing that whole Let's Play and putting that on YouTube. But yeah, we got, focus on this, we got 5 albums to cover, so let's just get through them. It's not going to take long, and it's not going to take long to edit, which is why I always like doing these. So before I actually talk about this first album, usually I like to talk about a place where a band is from, and stuff like that, but this is a solo act. This is a woman named Lilith Czar who was from San Francisco, California, but this is her first album under her current project of Lilith Czar, and it's titled Created from Filth and Dust, and I'm familiar with Lilith Czar. I've never listened to an album of hers, but I've seen her do a couple of guest spots on some songs by bands I like, and I know she's a really good singer, and yeah, really emulates that here, giving this album a B. Really solid, flavour of dark rock. But by the way, this album came out back in April, so technically it's not music of the past week. Well, technically the Friday before. But you know, that's beside the point. But this was just really solid alt rock leaning chops. She's got a really good voice, and I like this sort of crap my knuckles there. I like the sort of character she made for Lilith in a way. You know, even though it's not really a character, it's just like her dressing a bit differently, I guess you could say, but I do like it when people do stuff like this, especially if it leads to something that's good, and this album is really good. It's even got a decent cover of Urge 17, which is not my favourite song on the album, but it's a much better cover than it should be. So yeah, really solid songwriting, really good instrumental work. To my knowledge, she does everything on her own. I couldn't find anything about a backing band. If she does everything on her own, great. And if not, and she's just thinking, she's still great at that too. It's a really well put together album. Really, nicely handled on a structural front and on a production front. So, yeah, might be worth a spin. Next we go to Tallahassee, Florida for Mayday Parade with their 7th album, What It Means to Fall Apart. So, I've been familiar with them for a while. I've never listened to a full album by them. I've heard a couple of songs. And I know that they're one of the best going modern American sort of emo bands, and I've missed the mark, despite the fact that I look like an emo. I don't really consider myself one. I just listen to a lot of music that sounds emo-ish, maybe. But yeah, I'm really glad I got on the boat with these guys when I did. Giving this album B+. It's about the greatness I expected from Mayday Parade, despite having never listened to a full thing of theirs, but I really enjoyed it. It's got solid instrumentation to it. I really like how they're one of the more sort of happy pop-punk leaning emo acts, if you could call it that, emo alt-rock sort of thing. But yeah, they often have a very sunny disposition to things, despite the fact that they talk about very depressing things, which is my favourite kind of emo, if I'm being honest. And yeah, production-wise, really good. Yeah, Rise Records are a pretty good label, and they can help with that front really well when they want to. And honestly, it's just really nicely put together. It doesn't really miss a lot of its marks, and just really good melodies, really good stuff from a really good emo band, as you would expect from Mayday Parade if you've listened to them before. I hadn't. I would say I was pleasantly surprised, but I was expecting this album to be really good, and it was. So, yeah, at least it didn't disappoint me, which is a very harsh thing to say about it. The album's really good, is what I'm trying to say. Next we go to Italy. Nowhere specific, just Italy. I can never find out which part of Italy these guys are from. Temperance with their 6th album, Dia Martino. I covered their last one, Viridian, and I quite enjoyed it. You know, these are a really good sort of symphonic power metal-y act, and I like a good chunk of symphonic power metal-y stuff. This album, no different, giving it a B. Really liked a lot of what I heard here. If I remember right, this is their... Is it their first with her? Oh no, it's their second with her. With Alessia Scaletti. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was trying to make sure I had that right. Thanks Wikipedia for helping. So, yeah, Alessia, really good vocalist. Everyone on this album is pretty good. It's just some really well done power metal-y stuff with really nice symphonic elements as well. Although, bear in mind, I did listen to this album on Spotify, and I cut off before the last 4 songs because the last 4 songs are just different language versions of one of the previous songs on the album, and it makes the album about 20 minutes longer than it actually should be. So if you are listening to this album on Spotify, just cut off at that point, because you don't really need to hear the songs in completely different languages. I'm sure it really helps, but it's even more pointless because for the most part they don't even sing in Italian on the album, they sing in English. So yeah, I find that very strange when a band does that. But still, that aside, it's a very minor gripe considering how well produced the album is, how well performed it is, and how well written it is too. For a power metal album that falls into a lot of the tropes, as most power metal has a tendency to do, these symphonic elements really helped for me, and doesn't fully lean too much into the wacky fantasy stuff, which is both a blessing and a curse in the genre, but for what it did do with a really good, like, sort of central focus, I liked it. I liked it when it counted. Next up we go to Los Angeles, California, because we always wind up here at some point each week, I think, with Volumes and their fourth album, Happier? I say it like that because there's got a question mark at the end, as you'll find out when the album cover pops up, or when it has popped up, when I've edited this, or while I am editing this. You know what I mean. So there are some unique circumstances surrounding the album. First of all, it's their first one since their album in 2014, called No Sleep, I think it was, with Michael Barr. It's their first album since that with him. And it's also the first album to not feature the Farias brothers. Am I saying that correctly? Well, I've sort of... It's spelled right, so I don't know. Gus and Diego. So it's the first album without them, and that must have made this album very weird, considering it's my first Volumes album as well. It's still really good. I'm giving it a B+. I do feel like losing a couple of previous members might have been a shame, but then again, this is my first full helping of Volumes, so yeah. I'm also, you know, really good gent. Just solid, super heavy gent, as you would expect, really. Honestly, some really good songwriting. Michael Barr is a really good vocalist. I liked his usage of clean vocals really well. The drumming of, what's his starting name, Nick Ursic, is really, really good. And it's, oh yeah, it's also the, not their first album, their second album, excuse me, to feature Mike Terry, formerly of, oh, I forgot what they were called, shit, Bury Your Dead, there we go. There we go, I'm getting there. I'm not cutting any of this bit out. This can stay, you can enjoy the awkwardness with me. But yeah, solid, really well written, nicely put together, really well handled for the most part. I guess sort of one of the only downsides is that gent all sort of sounds the same to me, but it's usually really good. I have the same problem with symphonic power metal, ironically enough. But yeah, I still recommend maybe giving this one a shot as well, if you so fancy. And finally we stop at Portland, Maine. I don't think I've ever been to Maine before for one of these, with, I have their name, why do I keep forgetting? Weakened Friends, with their second album, Quitter. Not a debut, I almost made that mistake before. Weakened Friends with their second album, Quitter. So, I know absolutely nothing about them. They're a very new band, they haven't been around for super long. I think since like the early to mid-2010s. So yeah, this being their second album, I think they're first in 3 years, might be 2, but I think it's 3. And I didn't really know what to expect going in. You know, it was like an indie rock, indie punk album. I'm like, okay, I'll probably sound a lot like a lot of other ones. I was very highly surprised, and I'm giving this an A-. And there are a lot of factors that help with this. For one thing, they're signed to one of the best indie punk labels to ever exist in Don Giovanni Records. That is a really good place to be. Especially if you're that early in your career and both of your albums are out through that label. That's really good shit. And the band are just so naturally charming. Like, the album even starts sort of like your typical indie rock thing, like it is a bit slow, but it does have a good meaning to it. And then it just, like, kicks into high gear right away. It is a bit repetitive at points, but it's also quite charming and fun. You know, it's just really, really bouncy, a bit abrasive, but that actually works with it. Lead vocalist and guitarist Sonia Storino is amazing, and she adds, like, she does that sort of girl punk thing I would typically hate with, you know, that sort of thing, but, I didn't really hate it as much. I don't know why, I just found it fun to listen to, and it became such frequency that it's not that I got used to it or even fell in love with it. It's just I really enjoyed it, you know? I really enjoyed a lot of this album I was not expecting to like, because it falls into a lot of the tropes I typically wouldn't enjoy, but I don't know. Maybe other people might not like it as much as I do, but this is a possible contender for the top 30, and I've really got to sort those out more. I was hoping I wasn't going to have this problem. But yes, I absolutely recommend this album. Solid songwriting. Again, a bit repetitive points, but a very realistic feeling album. Very sort of like natural feeling album in a way, in terms of its production as well, and as well as its messaging, and just really well performed from all involved. And yeah, lead vocalist Sonia does an absolutely stellar job on an absolutely stellar album. So that will about do it for another episode of one of these. The next one will have 6 albums, I believe. It will, and the final episode after that will also have 6 albums in it because consistency. But I will see you all tomorrow for very brief history of My Bloody Valentine, and then on tomorrow night for the Go Home show for PBW vs ABW. Got some big shit set up, and then the next thing I can only guarantee is on Wednesday I'll see for the full episode of My Bloody Valentine, hopefully. The day after that I'll be putting up the parts to PBW vs ABW, but I won't be doing a video or stream, and then Friday night will be Capture the Crown. So yeah, that should be okay. I think that's a really good thing to have pointed out, and I don't really have a lot else to say, so I'll see you all tomorrow for the very brief history of My Bloody Valentine. And as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye. My fingers almost didn't work. Oh, almost forgot. Most recommended album. All these were really good. Weekend French Quitter is the one you absolutely need to listen to, though. I recommend that one. Okay, now thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.